High Impact Radio 102.1 FM. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to the newspaper review, where we get on the live stories that made front page in some of the dailies that we have with us today. Yesterday's Mental Health Monday, right here on the Morning Impact Show, and it makes me start this way. I saw a really disturbing video yesterday online, and it has to do a video with a particular business organization where it was alleged that he hired thugs to actually discipline one of his staff on the allegation of, she was accused of, stealing, and he hired thugs to, come discipline her in the office, and it was inhumane because she was whipped constantly for the little video that we saw. And it begs this question: how come we are so contented when we are, how will I put this now, when we find ourselves in position of power? We find it so easy to just do jungle justice. We find it so easy to condemn people. We find it so easy to maltreat people. And we are the same sets of people who condemn the government, who condemn other people who are in power, who do the same thing. It makes me wonder how we behave as humans, how we behave as a people. And it helps me wonder sometimes what holds the future for us. If the average Nigerian still have this same attitude that we blame our government for every single day, what makes you any different when you find yourself in a position of power and you can't be humane in any way? So what makes us so sure that if you find yourself in government and hold the real power, what makes us so sure you won't do the same or even worse than what these current people do at the moment? Well, concerning that particular young lady, I do hope justice will be served. I do hope the right authorities will take up the matter and get to the bottom of the issue, because even truly, she did steal from you. That's why the police exist. Report out to the police. Let investigations be done and find out if truly she's a thief or she's not one. This is how I welcome you to the newspaper review right here on High Impact Radio 102.1 FM. My name is Uche Okorie. Moving straight to the papers this morning, we will be starting with the Daily Trust newspaper today. And the Daily Trust leads with a really sad one. When I say sad, I mean gruesomely sad, because it says airstrike kills 15 in Zamfara. It has two particular riders to that story that says they are vigilantes. That's according to the governor. We killed bandits. That is according to the Nigerian Air Force. So the back and forth. Nigerian Air Force are saying they targeted bandits and they killed bandits. But the governor is saying, well, the airstrike which you took actually killed vigilantes, 15 of them. So it's really gruesome, because this is not really the first time we've come across situations in this part of the world whereby airstrikes were made and allegedly locals were killed. This is not the first time we're hearing it. And so when you get to see this kind of situations and the governor coming out to, allege that people that were killed were just mere civilians, vigilantes, rather than bandits, and the Nigerian Air Force coming out to say, no, we killed bandits, it means more investigation needs to be done. But you won't blame average Nigerians who are all over the net coming out to say, oh, again, because this is something that they've seen happen before. This is something that has happened once, twice, and probably people feel like, again, maybe this is constant. Maybe this is not a mistake. And so when the Nigerian Air Force are saying, okay, it is bandits, you have to understand with them that they have intelligence before they go to carry some of these operations. At least I won't even say some, most of these operations they get from credible intelligence. Maybe sometimes not really credible, but I will assume that 99.99% of the information they get are from credible intelligence. And if credible intelligence says those are bandits, well, they are on their right to say they kill bandits. But this is why we say more investigation needs to be carried out, more information needs to be gotten to find out who really those 15 people are. Are they bandits or are they vigilantes, as the governor of Zamfara State has alleged? Well, we still have a couple of more stories on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Before we go to more of those stories, we see a picture right here on the front page of the Daily Trust, and this picture has to do with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as he receives the audience of the chairman of First Hold Company PLC, that is Mr. Femi Otedola. This is a courtesy visit to the president in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, on Sunday. So yes, we know the president is on a 3-day visit in the United Arab Emirates, and we had Femi Otedola pay visits to him. So that's on the front page of the Daily Trust this morning. We also have another picture right here on the front page of the Daily Trust. It has to do with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Governor Peter Mbah, and other guests watching a demonstration during the official opening of the Command and Control Center of the Enugu Safe City Digital Security System. This one was built by the state government, and this happened before the president went to the walk-in visit in the United Arab Emirates. He was in Enugu a couple of days before then, where they had to, did some, developments opening, and a smart city happens to be one of them. And the picture on the front page is talking about the viewing of the smart city security system being unveiled to the president. Moving to more stories on the Daily Trust this morning, we see this one: Lagos Calabar Road project missing in 2025 budget. Lagos Calabar Road project missing in 2025 budget. We'll find that story on page 54 of the Daily Trust this morning. And the reason why this is a particular stare for most people is that probably for now there has been contemplations and then contemplations concerning the new coastal highway which was being built, because first and foremost there was a destruction of a particular beachfront development which was going on then for the coastal road to pass through. And some were of the opinion that this was just like a means to land grab and all of that. But federal government coming out saying nothing of such. We have intentions to make sure we build a Lagos Calabar coastal road line that will serve Nigerians for good. Okay, and some were of the opinion, this is just a sham. This is just something they want to do, and at the end of the day, we will not see it come to light. And so when the 2025 budget comes out and you see headlines like the Lagos Calabar Coastal Road missing, it makes Nigerians wonder, is it that this project is not going to be carried on? Is it that there's already money earmarked for it somewhere else, which will make sure that the project continues every single day until it is done? Or were they right all along and it was just some sort of sham? So you get so many questions, so many questions will be asked by everyday Nigerians just to find out what really is going on. And hopefully we all get the answers that we want to hear. Good answers, that is. More stories on the Daily Trust this morning. Underneath that one, it says shake up in army. Oluyede moves to bolster anti-terrorism fight. You find that story on page 9 of the Daily Trust. Underneath it, Minister Jega commends Zalum over ranches for herders. Minister Jega commends Zulum over ranches for herders. You'll find that story on page 46 of the Daily Trust. And I think that's something which was always going to be in news for a very, very long time, because right now in Nigeria, there is this, motion that probably all herders need to go into ranching. And so many are of the opinion that, well, it's always a debate. Some are of the opinion that, do most of these people have what it takes to actually ranch? Do they have the resources? Do they have what it takes to actually do all of these things? Some are of the opinion that it's a man's business. Once you want to go into business, whatever kind of business, just like every other person is going into business, you should get the resources which you need to make sure that your business is a success. And if ranching is the best way to make sure your business is a success, to make sure there's peace, to make sure that all businesses thrive at the same time, then those ones who want to involve themselves in cattle rearing should actually go into ranching. That is where many of them are saying. And when we say situations where Zulum is trying to make sure that there are ranches provided for herders, probably some people are of the opinion that yes, this is the right way to go. Maybe state governors need to start investing or helping these locals who are into this business to stabilize and offer them some sort of how would I put this word now without I do not want to use subsidy, but some sort of subsidy, whereby ranches are provided and payments, installment payments, some sort of thing to help it easy for them to easily move into that ranching phase. But some are still of the opinion that, is government going to help everybody get their business stable? Will the government help the average farmers to make sure that their business is 100% stable? In as much as I think they do one way or the other, by providing fertilizers at cheap prices, by providing food at cheap prices and all of that. But you know what I mean. So the farmer herders crisis, the farmers herders clash, is definitely something that has been a huge insecurity problem with Nigeria, because of this clash, it has affected food production. Because of this clash, we've seen situations where people no longer go to their farms. Because of this clash, people are afraid of their lives, so they rather not farm than lose their life. And so, if ranching is the order of the day, like it's done in most sane climes, if you go to most sane countries, I think you rarely see cattle walking on the roads, aside those who live in country areas, countrysides of the country, where a lot of farms and ranches are there, and most people know that okay, this part animals come through sometimes, and most times it's not because they are coming there to feed, but most times they are just passing through just to exercise them and make sure they get some walk in, some sort of healthy way for the animals to survive. But most of these cattle, we always find them in ranches. And many Nigerians feel if Nigeria goes that way, which veterinarians have argued that it is the healthy way, because that way the cows are less stressed, which means they'll help to produce better milk, which means their meat will be healthier and all of that. If that's the way to go, I think that will go a long way in settling the farmer herders crisis that we face in this part of the world. Still on the Daily Trust newspaper, Carter sought my release from Abacha's detention. That is according to a passenger, and he's talking about President Carter, who was just laid to rest a couple of days in the United States of America. So in case you want to find out how President Carter helped Obasanjo get released in Abacha's detention, then you need to go look at page 52 of the Daily Trust this morning, and that's the much we can take on the Daily Trust. Moving on to the Punch newspaper, but before we do that, remember you can always be a part of the conversation if you reach us on our WhatsApp line 0907-224-50 I take that one more time, 0907-224-5018. Or you can also call us on 0704 425 2109, 0704 425 2109. I take that one more time, 0704 425 2109. That's the number for you to call. And on WhatsApp is 0907 224 5018. Now going straight to the Punch newspaper. It says severe outages, Dangote, NNPCL, Total, 247 firms dump discos, generate 6,500 megawatts. Dangote, NNPCL, Total, 247 firms dump discos, generate 6,500 megawatts. We have two writers to that particular story. It says operators blame poor supply for move. FG laments exit from National Grid. Man, this story in particular, there's so many ways to look at it. So many ways for us to look at this particular story. And I say there are so many ways to look at it because we've seen that in recent times, in years, power supply has been something that has haunted us for years and years and years and years. We've been looking for steady power supply. We moved from different eras of, just to get us to this point where we can get stable power supply from the time we were NEPA to the time it was PHCN, to when it was, privatized, and different discos, coming out to distribute these electricities. But at the end of the day, it never still seems like power is enough, because if you go to most parts of Nigeria, there is no power. And to the few places that have power, it's in some sort of, segments, band A, band B, band C, band D, and all of that, with particular bands with different tariffs, and the different bands with different hours as to which they are going to have power supply. With band A having the most power supply and paying so much for electricity. And you get to wonder, if you're doing this and you're doing this much, how come there are still so many power outages with so much investment into running into billions of dollars into power in Nigeria, but yet nothing to show for it? And so when you see situations like this, oil firms, and with over 247 firms coming together to, pull out of the national grid and try to create their own power, and thereby creating a 6,500 megawatt of power for themselves, you get to ask, what have we been doing so wrong all this while? Nigerian Power has not been able to move past 4,500 megawatts, as of what we see last week on the papers. And so you wonder how our business is supposed to grow, our business is supposed to improve when the power situation is poor. We know for a fact when there is power in vicinities, everything becomes lively. Everything becomes better. If there's 24-hour power electricity, economy will get better because people won't depend on fuel. So no matter how expensive fuel is, it won't be part of cost of production, which means it will get cheaper. You get to see businesses opening for long hours because, yes, they know that, there's electricity everywhere, is lit, everywhere is bright, so they won't be scared of, people coming to rob them or all sort of things, or people come to hurt them, because there's electricity for them to see and for people to see them. It means increased labor productivity in the market. And so if we keep having this back and forth of electricity every single year after year after year, even after the privatization, and we still do not have a country we can beat our chest and say, Nigeria went 24 hours, 48 hours without non-stop electricity supply. And when I mean Nigeria, I mean every state in Nigeria, every local government in Nigeria. It has never happened before, and I dare say I stand to be corrected. someone could say, okay, Nigeria has had a situation whereby in the 774 local government areas of the state, we've had 48 hours of power non-stop. I dare to be corrected. And so tell me, how then can we say that we can move to productivity? How then can we say we can get ourselves to move to a certain point where things will be so smooth? We need to understand that some of these things, some of these little things, as little as they might seem, goes a long way in shaping our nation, goes a long way in helping the economy, goes a long way in making sure Nigeria becomes a better society. Looking at all the stories on the Punch newspaper, beside the huge picture of Femi Otedola and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we see this story: California fire. Trump blames leaders for poor response as 16 killed. You find that story on page 2. Huge fire in California over the weekend. Allegedly over acres of land has been burnt. Over $59 billion worth of investment raised down. This happens to be one of the worst disasters to have ever taken place in the United States of America. Really sad one. Properties, lives. We do hope something is done and probably investigated, because some are of the opinion that it was man-made. And we also saw the chief of fire right there in Los Angeles claiming that over 95% of wildlife fires were man-made. So is this that kind of situation again? Well, we will get to find out soon enough. Underneath that story, you see this one: APC opposition differ on INEC's 125 billion naira budget request. You find that story on page 40. 125 billion naira budget for INEC. That is huge. That is really huge. Underneath it, 80th anniversary GCU to honor. Honor a couple of establishments, and you need to go find out what GCU is all about and who they are honoring. That story you are going to see on page 41 of the Punch newspaper. Beside it, Ogun housewife stabs husband to death for alleged infidelity. Ogun housewife stabs husband to death for alleged infidelity. Page 4 is where that story is. Stampede: Oyo files murder charges against Ooni's ex-queen, others. Oyo files murder charges against Ooni's ex-queen, others. This story is on page 19 and it's huge now. This happened, a couple of weeks ago, and so many people have been wanting to find out how this case is going to go. Some have been of the opinion that it might be swept under the carpet, maybe because of names involved in it. But the Oyo State government has always been of the opinion that they are going to make sure justice is served. And now we're seeing that they have filed murder charges. It means, man, this is now on a different light. And we want to find out how this case turns out. We want to find out what comes out of it, if they will be convicted for murder or not, if it's going to be, some sort of fine paid, if they're going to go to jail, if they will be bailed. But all in all, this is just, a huge warning sign, a huge warning call to anyone or establishment or NGOs or parastatals who feel like they want to do some sort of charity. It is beautiful to do charity. It's good for you to want to help those who are in need. But once you have huge numbers, it is always good when you involve the state government, because at this point the state government will always try to provide the necessary environment for you, the necessary security for you to achieve what you want to achieve. So do your best to make sure the state government is involved. If it's something in the local government areas, do your best to make sure your local government is involved, because we need to be safe. you don't want to get into trouble just because you want to help out, and you don't want a situation whereby because of things like this it stops you from wanting to help out. It shouldn't stop you from wanting to help out. You only just have to go through the right process and make sure you've gone through the right process before you then decide to roll out any palliative which you have in mind to roll out. And it must be in a safe and conducive environment, and make sure it is secured, because we do not want a situation where something like this repeats itself again. Other stories on the Punch newspaper this morning: above the nameplate, PDP factional secretaries set for showdown, vow to resume today. PDP factional secretaries set for showdown, vow to resume today. The PDP is on the news again as they say the secretariats will be opened today, and we know there are factional secretaries, we know there are different factions. So how is that going to pan out in the secretariats today? Beside that story, NAF unveils tough rules to curb airman's exodus. NAF unveils tough rules to curb airmen's exodus. You find that story on page 41. How Qatar intervened to save me from Abacha's Gulag, Obasanjo. You see that one on page 40. And finally, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, page 5, that is where you will see this story. Again, 16 civilians killed as NAF bombs Zamfara bandits. Again, 16 civilians killed as NAF bombs Zamfara bandits. That story you find on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. And that's the Punch for this morning. Remember, we are streaming live on YouTube at iImpact 102.1 FM. We're live on Facebook at iImpact Radio 102.1 FM. We're on X, aka Twitter. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram at iImpact 1021 FM. And you can reach us on WhatsApp on 0907-224-5018. And you can also call us on 0704-219-2018. You can call us on 0704-425-2109. I take that one more time, 0704-425-2109. Moving back to the papers this morning, the Guardian newspaper is what we are looking at today. On the Guardian newspaper goes with this one. It says, roads to $1 trillion economy. Nigeria toes EU's path, integrates $146 billion shadow economy in GDP plan. That story you'll find on page 6. And in case you're wondering, what is a shadow economy? What do they mean by that? Well, the Guardian newspaper gave us a clip of some sort of graphics of, what that really means when they say an underground economy. Well, it has three ways it could be looked at. And one of those ways, it's known as, a shadow economy. It's known as an informal economy. It could also be known as a black market. That is what we call, an underground economy or a shadow economy. And how does that work? It has illegal transactions as part of what, guides the economy. Things like smuggling, human trafficking, gambling, prostitution. And what's the result? Wrong GDP estimation. Okay, and so that is one way the Guardian have explained the way Nigeria hopes to get to $1 trillion economy. It says it is towing the EU's path, integrates $146 billion shadow economy in GDP plan. So in case you want more details, in case you want to fully get what they are talking about, then you need to go get the Guardian newspaper and look at page 6 of the papers to get all of the details that you need this morning. Beside that one, we see Bayero heads to Supreme Court over Emir ship tussle. Bayero heads to Supreme Court over Emir ship tussle. You find that story on page 9 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Underneath it, State honor fallen heroes, harp on peace, security. Page 3 is where you will see that story this morning. Beside it, a mixed reactions trail announcement of Owade as a laughing elect. Mixed reactions trail announcement of Owade as a laughing elect. You find that story on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper for those of you who are interested in what's happening in all your states and who the next Alaafin will be. Well, Owade has been elected as the next Alaafin, and so many reactions is going on. What do you feel about it? What do you want to know about it in case you're interested? Well, the Guardian newspaper has all that story at page 7 for you to look at. Beside it, Obasanjo reveals how Jimmy Carter saved him from Abacha. You want to know how that happened? Page 5 of the Guardian newspaper definitely has all of the details for you. Diaspora group endorses Seyi Tinubu as next governor of Lagos State. Page 7 is where that story is. Underneath it, airstrike, Zamfara government, APC applaud NAF as military denies civilian casualties. Zamfara government, APC applaud NAF as military denies civilian casualties. You find that story on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Underneath it, and finally, on the Guardian, I beg your pardon, this morning, it says 500,000 farmers displaced within 2 years, says Dawn. 500,000 farmers displaced within 2 years, says Dawn. You find that story on page 8 of the papers this morning. Huge, and it's something that I believe is worth talking about. 500,000 is huge numbers for a country where unemployment is a problem, for a country where food security is an issue, for a country where food is so expensive. You have over 500,000 farmers, according to this university done, displaced. And some would even say maybe the numbers are more, because you hear the Benue State's governor coming out to say last week that over thousands of people displaced in his community in a week. Imagine if that is going at the astronomical numbers. Because, hey, Benue State, we know is the food basket of the nation. We know so much food come up from up north. And this is because of insecurity. This is because of farmer herders clashes. This is because of bandits. This is because of Boko Haram terrorists. And it's going on and on and on. And it tells a bad tale for our future. It tells a really, really bad tale for what's to come. Because we saw on the papers last week whereby we're talking about the economy. And we're seeing that people could no longer afford baby food due to inflation. And people had to go back to, pap and all of that just to feed their young ones. This is something we used to do in the past. This is something that Nigerians thought that we've moved past, because in recent years, almost at least a good number of Nigerians that have given birth make sure they try their best to make sure they give their kids baby food because they feel it's healthier, it has more formulas to make the children grow stronger and smarter. And we've seen the results in children that have grown up in the past few years. They are smarter, they grow faster, they grow stronger than our own time. And some would want to say it's because of, food that they eat from the young age, and, it helps them, their brains develop better. And you see a situation where we are going back to our past, where people can no longer afford all of these things because of inflation. The same thing goes for farming. The same thing goes for our food. We're in a situation whereby food are becoming so expensive, and yet we're still having a situation where farmers are displaced. What does that tell us? It means in the nearest future, food is not getting cheaper in any way. It means it's going to get more expensive because there are no farmers to farm, and once there are few farmers farming, it means there's less output coming out, which means for you to give out those output for more people, when there are more people trying to seek for it, inflation happens, money goes on it, and people try to get it, and all of that, which means we are going back to our past of poverty, our past of living in penury, our past where things are not good, things are getting worse. It seems like our past is better than our future, even because some people would say, hey, we're not even buying food so expensive in the past, so you even saying we're going back to our past. No, you're wrong. It seems our past is better than our future, and you won't blame people for saying that, because things were cheaper in the past, and right now, at a time where we think we're supposed to be getting better, things are getting way more expensive. Are you talking about house rent? Are you talking about food? Man, really, really, really expensive. But that's the much we can take for The Guardian this morning. From The Guardian, straight to our final papers for today. We will be looking at the Vanguard newspaper this morning. And it leads with this one: OPEC quota eludes Nigeria amid rising oil output. OPEC quota eludes Nigeria amid rising output. You find that story on page 19. It has a couple of riders to that story. It says, why oil output rises, Lokobiri. You can want to go find out what he's saying. That's the Minister of State for Petroleum. Beside it, it says pipeline vandalism, theft, others in the output. Most oil spills caused by oil theft, sabotage. That's according to Shell. NNPC security agencies uncover 33 illegal oil connections. Investors go for new oil gas assets. We have introduced critical regulations. That is according to the NUPRC. Man, I see some of these stories and I just wonder, when they say 33 illegal, oil connections, and you get to wonder, how do these oil connections get to the pipeline? It can't be ordinary Nigerians who do that. It's impossible for ordinary Nigerians to just go connect their pipes to pipelines of oil moving. It's impossible. You need to have some sort of power to be able to do some sort of those things. And you have to ask the questions, who are those, protecting those people trying to do some of these things? Because for you to have over 33 connections to those pipelines, 33 illegal connections, that is way too much. We shouldn't even have one illegal connection on our pipeline. We should have notice of everything, of how much our oil is coming out, how much is going in. So how then do we have a concrete figure of the production of oil that we do? If, well, like the papers say here, that the EFCC has caught over 33 connections, illegal connections, then it's safe to say that we do not know really how much output we have coming from oil as a country. Because 33 connections must have diverted a lot of some of those outputs to some other places. So how do they find out? And how many more of these illegal connections do we have on our oil pipelines? We need to get rid of all of these things. It is not rocket science. It's not rocket science that Nigeria is what it is today at this point. We know it's corruption. But we also know more needs to be done for these things to be corrected. Because as of now, It doesn't seem anything is being done because no one is being arrested. Because now they say, yes, that the 3 illegal connections has been found. Who had those pipelines connected? Who do they belong to? Who does the 33 connected pipelines belong to? Who was arrested? Where are consequences of actions? Until those things start to happen, it will become difficult for Nigeria to get to where it deserves to be. Moving on to other stories on the paper, we see the president being welcomed as he arrived to the United Arab Emirates. So you need to go look at the Vanguard newspaper for you to have all of those details. We see this one: PDP crisis, fear grips secretariat. I take that one more time. Fear grips secretariat staff as activities resume. One writer to that story: obey court judgment affirming Okoye as PDP scribe, BOT chair, Wabara tells NWC. You find that story on page 9. Underneath it, you see this one. It says Ughelli Government College. Okay, that is one story you need to go look at if you're interested in it. Beside it, repentant bandits seek forgiveness over atrocities. Repentant bandits seek forgiveness over atrocities. I'm not against forgiveness. I think it's a good thing when people seek forgiveness. They should be forgiven, but they must face the consequences of their action. Forgiveness is not, is not just you saying, okay, we've pardoned you, go and sin no more. You need to face the consequence of your actions. You need to stand up to the actions you made. You know the things you were doing when you were doing them. So face the consequences of your actions, and after you've spent a certain amount of time in jail where the correctional facility have gone through you, and we know that yes, truly you're a changed person, then and only then can you now come back to the society fully forgiven for the atrocities that you have done. But if consequences of action were not made, man, we're going to have thousands and thousands of more people commit these crimes and say, hey, forgive me just like you forgive the other people. That's not how a sane society works. There must be consequences of actions, and that is only when people will be scared to commit crimes against humanities. More stories on the Vanguard newspaper above the nameplate. This one says Emir ship tussle. I take that one more time. Emir ship tussle. Bayero heads to Supreme Court. Emir ship tussle. Bayero heads to Supreme Court. That story is on page 13. Beside it, Christian elders chide Tinubu for attending Arab Islamic Summit. Christian elders chide Tinubu for attending Arab Islamic Summit. That story you see on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. Also, beside that story, on page 10 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning, Serap drags FG governors to ECOWAS court over misuse of Cyber Crimes Act. Serap drags FG governors to ECOWAS court over misuse of Cyber Crimes Act. And finally, on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, we look at the sports corner of the papers this morning. And on the sports corner, it says, Chale, NFF begs Nigerians to support him. Chale, NFF begs Nigerians to support him. That story you find on page 37 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. And, it really, really is a funny one. And I try not to talk about, sports on the newspaper review, but it's part of the papers. And so there, I will also talk about it. And this particular story, it comes from a place where most Nigerians feel like, what has he done? What really has he done to deserve to be the coach of the Super Eagles, are like the biggest team in Africa? What exactly has he done? What skill set does he possess? What achievements has he made in his footballing career to say, okay, he is good enough to lead the Super Eagles? And we say this because As Nigerians, we believe we have good enough coaches who can do this job. What happened to Eguavoen? Are you saying it's not good enough? This is one person who has led Nigeria to different competitions before. He has led Nigeria to the Nation Cup too. Are you saying we do not have coaches in the Nigerian Premier League who can actually do this job? Have nothing against the man, as most Nigerians have nothing against the man, but sometimes we feel as Nigerians, as the Super Eagles especially, is a big team. A really big team. And so if you must go for a foreign coach, if you must go for a coach who you feel, okay, we need a foreign coach to come do the job, it has to be one who has the CV to back it up. It has to be the one who has the ability to change the Super Eagles from what it is now to what we expect it to be. It has to be that coach who has that charisma to do that job. It doesn't have to be an anyhow coach. Not saying Chelle is an anyhow coach or in any way, not to disrespect Chelle in any way, but what exactly is in his resume for us to say he's good enough to coach the Super Eagles? Well, he's already here, and we welcome him wholeheartedly. We welcome him with full support. We welcome him with all of our heart, all of our might. But the truth will remain. If the Super Eagles does not perform, if the Super Eagles does not qualify to the World Cup, we think then heads needs to roll from management. And I'm not talking about the football, I'm not talking about the team management now, I'm talking about from the NFF, because the Super Eagles is so big a team, but it's not giving as much seriousness as what it should be. Nigeria is now fifth in Africa when it comes to football. For real, fifth in Africa. Well, looking at the Nigerian Premier League, I don't think we can rank the Nigerian Premier League the top 5 best leagues in Africa. Well, it's possible, it is there, but in my books, well, I don't think so. Nigerian football needs to be taken more serious. Nigerian sports needs to be taken more serious. This is one part of the economy that can change people's life for the best, that can change Nigerian situation. Because if that part of Nigeria is moving smoothly, there are so many jobs it will provide for people. There are so many talents in Nigeria which it will help them, save them from poverty and the rest. More needs to be done in our sporting industry. More eyes needs to be on there. There needs to shine a light on there. In terms of corruption, the EFCC needs to look into what's going on there too, because this is a place where so much money is being spent, but yet so little is being gotten. So more needs to be done, and we wish the new Super Eagles coach good luck, because if he drives us to success, everybody will be happy at the end of the day. So if he's feeling like Nigerians are not in support of him or something like that, he shouldn't feel so bad. He should take it up as a challenge to change the minds of Nigerians, to let us know that he indeed is capable of making sure that the Super Eagles become super again. Well, that's how we call it an end to today's edition of the newspaper review right here on our Impact Radio 102.1 FM. I want to say a very big thank you to everyone who opened their ears to us, who opened your doors to make sure that we are part of your morning. Thank you so much, and please do the same again, same time, same station tomorrow, so we can begin your day with all the proper dose of news information that you need to know about Nigeria and, of course, across the world. My name is Uche Okorie. Till I come your way again tomorrow, have yourself a beautiful Monday. Bye-bye for now.